right?
Should I? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Board Report. We bring authentic truth and real conversation to educate our viewers. Hey, John.
How you doing, Joanne?
I'm doing great. So what's going on?
Another board report. And just for the folks out there, again, a reminder, the board report was created under the umbrella of Veneer Connections. And so we bring you board up reports from different correspondents, different contributors. Thomas Kinney from Sunshine Journal will be up next with us. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the board meeting that we just had this past week and the K through 8. It's time to innovate.
Yeah, you're right. Our rundown today is going to be the city council, right? That update and the school board meeting. So that's awesome because a lot went on at the school board meeting. So let's welcome Thomas Augustus, editor-in-chief of the Sunshine Journal. Hey, Thomas, how you doing?
Hi, Joanne. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Man, we got so much to talk about today, because Indian River County and that boardwalk project, it was a collaboration between the county commissioners and the city to build that boardwalk. And am I right? It's like $400,000 they're getting from us?
Yeah, the county's sticking to their commitment, from what I understand, of $400,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Well, it's what they pledged to begin with, and I think it was appropriate for the sidewalk. They're not going to go any higher. Joe Flesher came right out and said it. It's like, hey, we just need to honor the commitment we make. Now, granted, you guys updated your deal and decided to create this boardwalk, and you got private sector dollars to do it. This still goes back to that whole thing of the tourist district tax, the tourism tax, and how that's ultimately spent in the future. Susan Adams brought up in the debate about, how are we going to maintain this thing in the future after it's built? A very honest question, and she pointed out what we pointed out over here at the Sunshine Journal is that, hey, FEMA didn't give you the money because you never maintained it. And so therefore it had such a depreciative value that you asked for 1.9 million, you got $83,000. You and I discussed that.
Yeah.
And so she's like, so Aaron Voss from the city council was there in attendance, and Laura Moss brought him up, and Susan Adams subsequently asked this question. So how do you guys anticipate maintaining this? And he says, well, we haven't developed a plan yet. Okay. So yeah, look, you build this thing and they would probably not, hopefully they get it started by November 2025. There's a unique thing that goes on in the city in any beach development. There are these little cute turtles that keep showing up every year, and they show up from March to November, no construction, right?
That's right. So you can't do anything.
Your window is November to February. And the permitting process and all that stuff takes time. So they could literally run into November with the permitting process, also developing the plans, because now you got to develop a whole new plan and do all that. And, when Monty was at the county commission in December, he's like, hey, we're supposed to have these permits in by October to really ensure that we can start in November of 2025. So they hopefully will get started. They'll find a way to crunch all that. If not, it's another year of just walking out on the beach in the good old white sand.
So how do you feel about us sharing that expense with the boardwalk?
I have no objections to it. I think the tourist development tax could be the ultimate funder of it, though. Coming out of the general fund, I get it. It's easy. They can just vote and say, here, take your money. But they don't want to touch this tourist development tax and have a fight and and redo that ordinance. There's some outdated materials, rules in that ordinance, I think, that can be looked at, that could benefit the city. Again, the city brings in about 48% of that tax revenue, and annually, that's been about $2 billion in the last, or whatever, 4 or 5 years, and they've raised it another point. So, I think they have an argument for that, some of that money, to help them do the maintenance. We use it for beach renourishment and all that stuff, and the county takes care of that, but it comes out of that tourist development tax.
What we need to take care of.
Yeah, and I think, the maintenance should come out of there too, probably. Anything that's infrastructure along that beachfront in particular that draws tourism, and boardwalks are part of infrastructure on a beach that make it a pleasant place to come. Our boardwalks aren't the big, like I always say, not the big Northeast boardwalks or the Santa Monica Pier or whatever. They're not these things.
So do you think it sets a precedence that now we should collaborate with them in future projects as well?
No.
Or is this a one-time deal? And I was thinking maybe they could pay us back with some of that tourist tax.
No, and I don't think they should either. I think this is the reality of it is they're not getting their fair shake on the tourist development tax, so that they're strapped for cash, and the city's always been strapped for cash. Now, the city did shoot himself in the foot with this referendum and not getting passed, and be able to find other sources of revenue. And we've talked about this. This is the city's problem. They have to have sources of revenue, but their own charter, and the referendum process, and all the different things that they've done throughout the years. They had a special call meeting on Tuesday as well about what they could do about downtown.
Right.
And, they're going to do like a business investment development corridor type thing where you have the backing of businesses. They're going to put up new lights, light posts and stuff. A lot of that stuff's old and outdated. Bring in some planters, beautification projects, a lot of peripheral things. But when it comes to straight development, increasing density is going to be a necessity in the near future. I don't understand why they haven't done it entirely. What I don't like about the way they did this one is they built this master plan that called for all these little buzzwords: affordable housing. You and I have talked about this. Bring the jobs so people can afford to live here.
Yeah,
that'll create a lot of affordable housing, don't you think?
But that's always going to be a problem, even with that Fellsmere project that's going on, the Valhalla project. That's how many jobs is that going to bring here as well? So
and that's service industry related and different things like that. But it's still, Fellsmere in the city is more about, the city of Fellsmere is county, it's west. We're talking about an area that's pretty much the central location of our county. You got the county seat here, you got the courthouse here, you've got all these things, and the mayor likes to say Vero Beach is the transactional hub of the whole county, and he's right. When you're out in Fellsmere, the culture is completely different than, say, downtown, and it's a beautiful little town, and it's fun to go to for sure, and it would be a great place to live, raise your kids, and do all those things. But it's a different culture too as well, and that's fine. That's what people choose. But this Valhalla project to me, it's almost like, it doesn't fit with Fellsmere.
No, it doesn't. Fellsmere's so I think cowboy boots and spurs and horses and farms and dirt. I think dirt when I think of Fellsmere, houses with big yards and
5-acre lots.
I think of that when I go to Fellsmere, and the little town of Fellsmere. It's just 2 lanes to go in there,
It's not going to be for long.
So the Valhalla just doesn't click. It doesn't make sense. And it's so far from the beach. It's like making a little Miami in a little section of country.
But my sister-in-law lives up outside of Jacksonville, St. Augustine area, and they're in this huge development. Huge. I mean, it's got golf courses with clubhouses, and there's all these options in these types of communities that you as a family can take advantage of. And there's actually a guy across the street from me, because he loves America, so he's flying his American flag, and well, the HOA is upset with him, so he built a 50-foot pole and he pays the fine. And he's got this flag just flying high. But is that Fellsmere?
No, it's not.
The Rebel, maybe, but not
No,
is that Fellsmere? And that's what's happening. People are coming to Florida. What, it was like 1,500 a day at one point during the COVID exodus and all that. And people are coming here, and they're just of different culture and different backgrounds and big cities and all that other stuff, and they want their amenities. And I get it. It's fine. There's plenty of places in Florida to go to do that. But, changing the whole culture of Fellsmere and Western Indian River County is a bit of a shock.
I don't know. I mean, and at least the county does projects and they get some of their projects done. But like with the city and the boardwalk and Three Corners, I mean, to me, some of their projects just never take off. They just sit and sit and sit. So I'm curious if they're going to be able to do this boardwalk in a good amount of time. I know they did the wood boardwalk down JC Park, and they replaced that, and they did a good job with that. But I'm curious to see what they're going to do, because they're so undecisive. It feels like when they're talking about the boardwalk there at Humison Park.
But hey, it's the public outcry after the vote. The city was just trying to do their due diligence. They didn't think the people were. I guess they didn't think the people were paying much attention. There were people who said, "Yeah, it should be a boardwalk," but they're looking at their wallet, going, "We budgeted $1 million, and that's also to get our shade areas and our lifeguard stands and all those other little things that got destroyed in that storm." And they're like, we only have $800,000, and this is what we have. And I admire them for doing that. I really do. That's smart government. Doesn't present you with the most picturesque development plan, but hey, it's what we can afford. And then the people came back, well, we'll put money into it. Okay, fine. And then they've got the county kicking in.
Yeah, but the JC Park has always been the park to go to. Like even Humison Park, I'm trying to figure out, I've never been attracted to go there. When my kids were really little, I used the park, but I never really felt good about the boardwalk there. It didn't
it's not a boardwalk
or whatever it is there. I didn't go there. We always went to JC Park, and it felt beachy, and the way they built it there. So you have the little areas, the wood benches to sit down in.
It's completely different. You're right.
It feels so feels like Indian River County when you go to that little small, and it's a small area, Humison Park, and it feels like, I don't know, it feels like a city. It feels too much like a city.
It is. It's the downtown beach side, really. And JC Park has got the little stand, got the ice cream shop over there, got a little set of stores, and then you just walk out of the stores. Hey, let's go stroll on the boardwalk, and it's actually wood and plankton and all that stuff. But you go over to Humiston. It's in the middle of the town, and it's a cute little park, but it does what it's supposed to do in Vero Beach. And Vero Beach is a place where families can come, people can relax. There's not stressy beaches. There's not any of this stuff. There's just good old fashioned, family fun. And that's great. And so to have a little place where people can sit in Humiston, I get it. The city did what they could. The people were like, hey, we could help you do more. And that's where we're at. And it's a cool thing. I'm all for it. And the county chipped in their $400,000 just like they were in the other one.
Well, now they stopped letting dogs in the park too.
That I don't know about, but I wouldn't doubt it.
Lady May there, and just we always pick up after her, but we used to take her to the park when we went to the park, and we just noticed recently. I was like, oh, we're not supposed to go in there with her. So that
Well, you
kind of
can play
sucks.
dumb for so long, right?
Yeah. So what do you think? You think that park's they're gonna get that done this year before the summer? Do you think that'll happen before the summer?
Yeah, I can make my predictions. But you have all these environmental impact studies and blah 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 blah. Who knows? They're not going to get it done before this summer. No way, because it'll start in November of 25 if they get it, and that's on Rush.
Oh, it's starting in November.
Yeah, because look, hey, the end of next month is turtle season begins. The March of the Turtles starts, and they're going to come in and do their thing over and over and over again all summer long. And we're going to have our caution tape all over the beach again, and don't sit here because you might sit on a turtle and all that stuff. And then November, they'll be able to come in if they get all their permitting done. If not, they don't have their permitting done. It's not until November of 2026.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it takes a long time for stuff to get done. It really does.
The lights will be out all summer long until the turtles go away, and then they'll do their thing in the ocean, and we'll be able to hopefully put in a boardwalk.
Yeah. So, Indian River County has a lot of things going on, between Fellsmere, Three Corners. What's going on with Three Corners? Did they finally decide on what's going to happen there?
They did not. They had a meeting with the selection committee or the recommendation committee or whatever the name of that committee. Anyway, and they basically explained the RFP to the public. And it's interesting. This time around, they have PFM, which is their financial firm that audits all of the proposals. And so PFM did all that last time. But now they also have this, they have an engineering firm, which this is going to be interesting. And the Sunshine Journal is getting ready to release, currently writing still, the comparisons of these two proposals and some other information that I found through public records as well on some of the motivation behind particularly the Clear Path thing. So I just want to put that out there. It's going to be out in the next day or two. A lot of stuff going on personally over here that is just sort of slowed down production of news for a momentary time. And but yeah, we'll be back at it here real shortly. And that's going to be our first story. So that's where I'm at. And the thing about this is that they're going to have an engineering firm score these proposals as well. That's different. And Andres Duaney, who did the master plan, was all for the SUDA plan. He said it tailored most to it. And remember, SUDA came back, as we spoke about in a previous broadcast. SUDA came back and they didn't change their plan, but what they did is they went out and got engineers into Big Blue for what they wanted to do with it and all of that stuff. And they said they got it verified by their engineers. Hey, this can be done. And that was one of the big questions that City Council had in the first RFP.
Mm-hmm.
They just gave us a plan, but we don't even know if it's got the wherewithal to be carried out. And it turns out it does.
So, hey, Thomas, you were at the school board meeting, and I just wanted to play something.
Sure.
I'm going to bring it up here. It was when you were up there.
Oh, hi, Jen.
Sorry.
Pippin.
Wrong one. Sorry, Jen.
Bye, Jen Pippin.
I had to kick her out because I'm trying to find it. It went somewhere. Here it is.
You might want to bring her in on this anyway, but that's okay.
Yeah, we can bring her in on that. Let's put her up there, Mike. So this was on the camera angles. Remember when they were talking about the camera
Hi, Jen
angles?
Pippin.
Oh,
Hey guys.
You know what? My screen went down earlier and I had this up for you. So let me hang on. I'm going to grab it for you. I wanted to ask you about this. So let me find it.
Is this on the camera stuff? Policy 0165?
Yeah, when we were working on that, when we went over there and they were talking about it, I got to find it.
How ironic, are we talking about screens and views and you're trying to figure it out on your screens and views, how to pull up the video?
Well, I had it all set up, but I had to download and bring it back up. So I had to close everything out, and I had it because I wanted to ask you about this. And now I got to find where it is. Let's see if I can.
Do you remember what your question was? We could probably answer it without even.
It was something I wanted to show you that was happening up there for you. And I want to see if this one's it. That's not it. I might not be able to get to it because my everything went down. I thought I could get to it from now. But anyway, when you went up there to talk.
Yes.
I don't know if you noticed this, Jennifer. You walked up there, and the minute you said hello, she said, "Speak on the topic."
Oh, yeah. When I went up there to talk, yeah.
How y'all doing? Yeah.
And they basically,
how you doing this evening?
And they basically shut your mic off. Like, remember he was talking and his mic wasn't on, and they had to turn. I was like, is there a little friction here between Thomas and Ms. Berenborg?
It was so rude.
I was so rude.
I guess she's reading my articles.
And then you could hear me in the background. I was in the background. I go, oh my God. You know, those mics pick everything up.
Oh, they do. Yeah, I think you could hear one of the other board members said something too, like, oh boy, or I can't believe that, or something. I'll have to go back and hear.
That was earlier, yeah.
Well, yeah, that was Jean with the oh boy to public comment. But during that time too, when that happened with you, well, I want her to play the clip because then we can listen again and see who it was that said something.
I know. I was like, I'll see if I could find the clip. It's just hilarious because
I'll find it for you. You guys chat about what you guys chat there about what you want to talk to Jennifer about, and I'll bring it up for you.
Well, let's go to a commercial and we can go to do that. Okay. So everybody stand by. We're going to go to a commercial and we'll be right back.
Warrior Shield Foundation is here to unite, honor, and provide support for veterans, first responders, and Gold Star family members. The foundation will enable them to find the help they need through direct assistance or by connecting them with our shared vision network. Using data-driven models, we provide solutions that make a long-lasting difference. We, along with our partners, are dedicated to bringing together like-minded groups and individuals who have committed to making a difference in the lives of our hardworking, everyday heroes. We bridge the gap by connecting warriors or their families with the assistance they deserve and require, such as service dogs, wheelchairs, counseling, scholarships, and team-building retreats, to name a few. You can help right now to make a difference for those who have helped and protected us all. Warrior Shield Foundation, selflessly doing for those who need it most.
It's a long way to home, but you won't take the hard road all alone. Just look to your left and look to your right. You were born to fight.
Indian River Connections brings you the first source you can watch for truth on board decisions in Indian River County. The Board Report, where taxpayers and policymakers intersect. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform to get notified when we go live on Fridays at 7 p.m. Visit IndianRiverConnections.com for more.
Where is that coming from?
5:30.
Where's what coming from?
Oh my God, it was already playing. So hang on.
Okay.
I found it for you if you like. Can I share?
Hang on. I'm going to put you up here. Here we go. You're going to love this, okay? Hang on. All right.
Right
So if
there.
you guys are just coming back to us, this is the board report where you get authentic truth and conversation to educate our viewers. We've got a clip of Monday's meeting coming up. And this was, somebody's got to shut their video down in the background. Is that you?
Maybe you, Thomas. Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
All right. So are you guys ready for this play? I keep hearing somebody playing in the background.
It's not I, said the fox.
Okay. So here we go.
How's everyone this evening?
Please speak to the item.
I want to thank Amy and Mark. Welcome to the
Oh my
board.
God.
That was Jackie Rosari saying, "Oh my gosh."
Cameras in
Yeah.
this room.
Was that Jackie? I thought
That
it
was
was me.
And the vocabulary is always challenging,
Yes.
isn't it?
No, that was
Thank you
Jackie.
to that team.
Mr.
Is that
Green.
great?
Oh, it was Jackie because I said, "Oh my
You
God,"
want to call a
too.
vote?
Mhm.
You know, I don't even know if it's worth commenting on.
I was like, "What is going on? Why is she being so rude?"
You know what's really interesting? The whole thing to me is, it's like, why would you create policy that has to be changed once you leave? And she basically said, you know, the next board can come along and change it. Like anyone's going to remember this even happened. And like, if we're still around here walking up on canes and going, I need to change 06165, then maybe it'll get changed. But this is why bad government exists, because people don't answer these questions holistically when they're presented. This is the same with the book issue, right, Jen? It's
That's
like,
right.
come on, this is pornography. You get it. And they're like, well, maybe we should do it this way and be whether or not it's quote age appropriate and use a movie rating system. No, that's not how it works.
Right.
It's
And the
like-
thing with this policy, there was just one sentence in there that was inappropriate. So, I mean, that one sentence, the rest of the policy, in my opinion, was fine. Our membership thought it was fine. But to have the superintendent have the authority to change the angles or turn it off or whatever, again, even if it's not Dr. Moore, it's nothing against Dr. Moore. It could be the next superintendent that comes in. I mean, Dr. Moore could get sick and then we have an interim, superintendent. That person can change it under their discretion, and there's no real terms defined in, how and when they can move it.
Well, Ms. Ehrenborg just gave the perfect example of somebody being rude to somebody from the dais. If she had control of the cameras, she could have did something. Like what happened to your mic, Thomas? Like your mic, she got off stage and she was loud as day, and then you get up there, you announce yourself. She has a little comment that she makes, speak to the topic, which she didn't have.
I don't think anything happened to my mic.
And
I
all
really
of
don't.
Yeah, well, your mic was low, and then it came up, and I'm like, okay, that's a perfect example of somebody being behind there and having control. Like, how did all that happen? Somebody was rude behind the dais. So what if the superintendent didn't like somebody that was coming up? Then he can start doing stuff.
Well,
like that.
they don't have that type of control from the dais. I can tell you that already. Everything that's in control is behind you in a room, and there's a gentleman in there running all the tech. And he doesn't, I don't know if they're running hand signals like baseball coaches. I doubt it. But, this means down, that means up. But her mic is going to outpower my mic. I go up to the microphone. I'm usually pretty soft, but I can be very loud, as everybody knows. So
Yeah.
Well, the fact to consider is, and Dyer said towards the end of his comments, he said, "Oh, I trust the superintendent." This policy does put trust on the superintendent, whoever that might be.
It's a bureaucrat.
But this is a board meeting. Superintendent is an adjunct to that meeting. The meeting, if anyone's going to control it, the meeting should belong to the board, and the chair is the one who's responsible for managing that. So if anybody's controlling it, it should be the chair and not the superintendent.
That's right.
Just as a
That
general
actually,
policy.
that would make that would make sense. That argument would make a lot of sense, But yeah, and I think even Jackie's mentioned it. She says, "But we're the board. We have control, and we don't give control to him. She didn't say it in those exact words, but she did mention that. And I agree with that 100%.
But it's a bad atmosphere and a bad policy to get in the habit of saying, well, we trust our superintendent in this case, and so we're going to hand off our power and authority to them. That's what's happened in our country. The Congress has handed off all their power and authority to other people who eventually it will always be abused, because power and authority is always eventually abused.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kevin said it. I mean, the biggest example of handing off authority is is Obamacare. That whole thing was the executive branch shall. It's not the executive branch shall make up this. How it was done, Congress couldn't have cared when they passed that thing. And this is like the bureaucrat, superintendent in this case, shall. The superintendent's there to do what? Educate the kids and lead the education effort. He's not there to run microphones.
Right.
Yeah. There were two topics that they brought up that I thought were really important topics. And that was when Jackie Rosario brought up the bands and the, what do you call them? The extracurricular.
The arts and the athletics.
The arts, the athletics, the
Music.
band, the orchestra, the additional classes that you take that aren't academics, because those are important. Our high school's been top notch when it comes to band and orchestra. Like my daughter, when she was in middle school in 6th grade, she was in band and orchestra, and
That's awesome.
she took band and orchestra all the way from middle school through high school. And she did all the competition stuff. How they get on the bus and they go to the different schools. She did it for piano, for flute, and for violin. So
is she still playing?
Yes, she plays the guitar now. So she plays the piano,
She's a multi-instrumentalist.
the flute, the violin, and I mailed her all her instruments, and now she's looking, except for the piano, because I can't mail that. But she's looking to buy one of those 84 key organs because she misses playing. But it was really instrumental, because when
Nice
Hannah
fun. Really instrumental.
It was really instrumental, literally, because when Hannah was going to school, I was going through a really terrible divorce, and that's really hard on the kids. But with her, and I'll tell you what, there was a stage in her teen years when band saved her, because there was a lot of friction in the divorce at that time. And sometimes one of the spouses will use the kids as a weapon, and she happened to be in the middle there, and I was trying to protect her, but some shit was going on. So Salmons literally took her and made sure that she was protected and she was focused on band. And band is a rigorous club
It is
part of. And she kept up. She was an AP class. I mean, my daughter graduated with honors and scholars, and I think one of the things that saved her is being busy all the time, because when you're not busy, all you can think about is the things in your life that are not working for you, Right. And she just, between school and band, she loved the camaraderie, she loved the marching. It's almost like being in ROTC when you're in the band, and then she got to mentor people in band. So I think those are things that we really need to work hard when they do the K-8 to make sure that those are strong programs. And I went through a phase where I couldn't afford a lot. Like when I was working at the high school, I literally was taking home $18,000 a year. And I was a single mom, and she got into the band. The band had a scholarship. So she got into the band scholarship, but she worked her butt off, and she did not take advantage of so those things are really instrumental in helping children stay focused, find something they're good at, takes their mind off troubles. There were a lot of kids in there that she ended up mentoring and being like a lead flutist or something like that. And
well, it's funny because this is the reality of choice too. And there are, just like your daughter did band, there are a lot of kids in middle schools who don't do band. And
Mhm.
so, but they're sort of pushed there now because schools end at 5th grade. And you talk to our producer, Mike, and his daughter in dual language would love to continue dual language. It looks like she's going to have that opportunity now.
Yeah.
And that's a very camaraderie building type of functional course too, because your friends are Spanish and they're learning English and you're learning Spanish. And, it's like their own little, that's how they build these relationships that are unique and special, just like with the band and the musicians and all these different things. And that's the thing, if it's STEM, the kids got to do STEM, and the scientists will all gather around. And if it's athletics and the intramurals, all that stuff too. So, choice is good in our system. The bottom line to all this K-8 is enrollment is declining.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Big time.
And they're trying to cover for that. And as more choice, people take advantage of the step up programs and the scholarships.
Mhm.
This is going to, this is what being competitive is all about.
Yeah,
right.
and the only thing with choice programs is if you have to travel, like if you might be at one school and then you've got to travel to get your kids to the other school.
For
like-
soccer or something like that.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough part for parents because a lot
Yeah.
of them are working, And then the other thing that I heard them bring up was when you have K-8 is.
But choice is always about responsibility, and the
Mhm.
the parents are going to have to take that responsibility to fulfill those choices. And that's, if you go to private school, that's the way it would be. And if you go homeschool, getting your kids to wherever for those activities that are at other locations, that's the way it's got to be. And the only other thing we can do is build a school in your backyard.
Yeah.
Well, and for activities, parents can carpool. I know that there's some cheer moms and some band parents that they carpool. So if they know that they have something where they're not going to have transportation provided, they say, "Hey, I'm going to take Susie and Joni on Tuesday and Wednesday, and you take them Thursday," and they kind of work it out that way. So a lot of times too, or when it's at the high school level, like, hey, so and so drives, so they can take a couple people. So if transportation cannot be provided, they can always get them to these clubs and activities too.
And if you go on the Moms for Liberty public page, I can guarantee you'll get your kid a ride.
Yeah, and that's a great idea though that you mentioned that, because the school, how the schools have a website, they could put on the bus, where you click to look up the bus stuff. They could also put like a little link that says, if you're interested in carpooling, go to this website. And this way parents would have a way to contact other people that need to carpool. But the other thing I wanted to mention was that they talked about was when it's K-8, it was Barenborg that mentioned it. And she had said some parents were worried about their kids riding with 8th graders, like kindergarten and 8th graders. And I kind of was thinking when she said that, I was like, well, why did they have to worry about that? Because right now you separate them anyway. So if you're going to combine the schools, why wouldn't you do like K-5 ride, bus pickups are on this side of the school, and then 6 through 8 are pickup on the other side. That's kind of what we did at the high school. The freshmen or the lower grades picked up on one side and the higher grades picked up on the other side. Do you remember that, Jen? They had like different pickups, or you might have been a drive up, but they kind of worked that out at the high school too, at the school.
Yeah, a couple of the schools, I know a couple of the moms in our Moms for Liberty, private chats, they were talking about how, in other schools, they did, kindergarten through 5th, picked up at, 8 o'clock, and then they picked up the middle school age students at 8:30. So I think too, with the new legislation that's going to be, implemented in 2026, they may have to, separate that, and because they're dropping off to, different sides of the school as well, like you mentioned.
Yeah, because it makes sense. Like, I know, because it's true. Like, kids from 6th grade and up, they're talking about things that you don't want your 5th and 4th and 3rd and kindergartners to talk about.
Right.
I think it was when my daughter went to Gifford, when she started going to 6th grade, is when she came home and started asking me those questions that I had to sit down and have mommy talk with her. Okay.
Now
well,
they're just doing that in the classroom in fourth grade. too.
Yeah, right. How was it up north, Kevin, with you? Did you have that issue with, busing the younger kids with the middle school age kids or anything like that?
But if you mean when I grew up,
Or that too?
we
if
had
you
horse
wanna
and
go there.
buggy back then. We'd plow our way to the school. Actually, we're just up north.
I
in
had
New York
3
City.
jokes.
In New York City, the kids take the subway by the time they're 12 years old. But
Yeah.
it was a challenge for the private school. Was a challenge. Actually, we had in single school we had a separation of the lower and upper grades, and so the parents who had children who were split that separation, they actually had to cross Central Park. You might as well walk across Indian River if you got across Central. It is not easy. It's a 45-minute trip to go up, 2 miles across the park. So it was a real burden for them. And even if people had to go north and south, traffic is horrendous. So even if you had the luxury of a parent who could do it and the car available, it was still a major challenge.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think that the school will do a pretty good job of dealing with these logistic things. They're going to pay attention to them. They got the resources. I think those are good. The real question, the underlying question, which Thomas alluded to, is the reason they're doing this is not because they think that parents want this. The reason they're doing this is that they've lost 400 more students.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is this the fix? And school choice is a great first step, but is this the fix, or one part of the fix that is going to stem that loss? Because the loss is primarily in kindergarten, and then in the fifth and sixth grade level. And
This problem, Kevin, you're right. This problem is going to determine whether or not Dr. Moore is the superintendent of the year that the award says he is, because you've got to stop the decline in enrollment. Right now, you're superintendent of the year that people have already said publicly throughout the United States of America, public schools are failing. And if I can get my kid out, I will. Now in Florida, we have a way to get your kids out. It's called a scholarship program. And you get $7,800, $8,700. I forget what it is. But whatever it is, it's enough money to get your kid out. And he has to overcome that perception, which he's superintendent of the year of. That's huge. And I think the choice is a movement in the right direction. This classical school that they discussed, he talked about how we're going to start this naming convention thing in March. Well, he said in October, and it's been confirmed, it's live on tape. In October, he said, we'll have it by December. Actually, he said he'd have it by next month, and then next month turned into December. And so, you can't do this any longer if you're serious about winning. And I don't know how serious they are. Well,
you're actually right. You have to. A theory is taking facts and trying to find an explanation for them. Conspiracy just means you got two people working on it. But everything is a theory. And so you look at the facts and you say, if you're not doing all the things that a normal, intelligent person would do in the way that you're doing, and if you're particularly rated so highly as being capable of this, when you look at this one thing and they are falling flat on their face and stumbling on it, you have to come up with a theory. What explains that? It's not their skills and their capabilities of the staff and everything.
It's their classical school thing you're referring to, correct?
Yeah, so you start saying, well, what's left? Is it maybe they don't really want to have a real classical school? They don't want to advertise it. Maybe originally they wanted to combine K-8 and classical in one place. Now they've spread out the K-8 idea, so maybe they've determined that the parents are more interested in K-8. But the important part is that we're 150,000 people in this county?
170.
170.
You're close.
We got dozens and dozens of churches and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands maybe of religious people, Christian, Judeo-Christian, God-fearing people, and to offer them something to say, you deserve to have an education system that acknowledges you and is not antagonistic towards you. And while it's not a religious classical school, it at least has the potential to take away some of the propaganda and the the junk that's in those. Posca made a mention of that problem. He says a lot of the curriculum in the science curriculum has a lot of real propaganda built into it, religious things and political things that really have nothing to do with science, but they use them in examples and they embed them in there. And for those who are a non-theistic or a liberal perspective that want the public school system that's being delivered, that's fine, but that's not the majority of the culture in this town. And to fight against providing what the community wants, deserves, and should have, that's troublesome. And this is a single. I hope that Dyer was right when he said he supports classical schools. Again, he reiterated, and he supports. He thinks that the superintendent's going to follow through with that. I hope and pray that that is the case. What's going on with this thing does not bode well. It lends you to theories that are not positive theories.
You know, it was interesting when Posca was talking about the student ratios dropping, and Dr. Moore came back and said, well, we're focusing on the students we need to get, not the students that are leaving. You know, it's not verbatim, but he had mentioned that he was focusing on the students that they want to attract. And I was like, but then that means he's not focusing on why. Like Gene Posca was like, we need to find out why they're leaving. We need to do like an exit interview, find out what's making them move away from the school so we can rectify that. And I don't think Dr. Moore is in that frame of mind. He's like, let's like do this amusement park thing and have everybody want to come, you know? And,
well, it's almost an attitude.
What's wrong with the amusement park and fixing it?
It's almost an attitude of, we'll let those more conservative, more Christian, Jewish people who have these strange ideas, we'll let them go and, you know, do their homeschooling, and we'll try and attract more people who are of the ilk that they want the public schools to reflect.
Well,
and
the school has to have a basic pluralism about it, but
it doesn't have to.
Well, it does. It does. If it's going to serve the whole community as a whole, it's going to have some type of pluralistic worldview and paradigm. I can't say all of pluralism is true. Obviously, it's not. But you know, the whole the science thing. I mean, here you have a medical doctor whose biochemistry is his specialty, talking to you about what is wrong with the curriculum and how he would not let his daughter read it, and then votes against it. And these people just looked at him like, well, we're approving it anyway.
Yeah, we're just going to do
does the professional scientist carry any weight, you know, or could you at least amend your vote with the idea that we'll map these things that are they're not controversial, they're just wrong.
Right.
You know, we always say controversial, therefore we'll map them out when we do the lesson planning. No, they're wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get him on board to champion the supplemental information that's going to go with this. You know, we provided a lot of links and, you know, peer-reviewed studies and doctors speaking about this, everything that was wrong with the science curriculum. So I'm going to try to capture Gene and, you know, what his profession is and what he's amazing with, and see if we can provide some supplemental information that will come out, you know, in August when the new, you know, biology starts for
But and the shortcoming is the supplements, they don't remove the dogma that's there. And so you can put the supplements on, they don't remove the dogma. And then ultimately you really don't know or have much control of what actually goes on and is taught in the classroom. So if you have a dogmatic teacher, it's hard to control that. You know, that we don't have a mechanism to say, are they actually doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Hey guys,
look like Hollywood Squares.
I guess it's panel time.
Here's a story of a man named Brady.
Thanks for joining us again, guys. I kind of like
learned our generation.
Yeah, right. I like this section. I like hearing from you guys individually, but I like this part because hopefully this is where we'll have some feedback from the community to bring to you guys from your experiences going to these meetings. So the K through 8 thing. I'm going to jump right to it. Sorry, John, if I'm jumping over you,
good.
but I feel like it's good news. I mean, maybe not for both my kids, maybe not for every kid, but I mean, the work around the intermingling of the 5th graders and 8th graders, or 8th graders and kindergartens, I think that could be established with separate transportation times. I don't know if you want to move that many more kids through pickup loops and bus loops at the same time anyways. I think we experience that now at some of the high schools, if I'm not mistaken. I know we did in Brevard County, but I think that's a workaround in some areas like that. What else was I going to say? Oh,
I went to a K-8 school. We never had that issue. I can tell you this: the 7th and 8th graders are usually on a wing of their own.
Right.
It's my elementary was K-6, and so I think we're probably that's going to be a little different, and it's, you know, I don't think it's the biggest issue going forward. The biggest issue going forward is, will this school system have even 10,000 kids in it in 5 years?
Right.
I
You
think
see
the
it
only-
declining that much?
Yeah, I do.
Well, if you've gone from 15 something to 14, under 14,000 this year, and you know, we'll find out when these enrollment numbers come in February. This is what this is all about. I don't see it being any other way. There's a demand for this, keeping their kids consistently with the kids they grow up with. You got to understand, when you have a 5th grader going into 6th grade in an elementary school, it's just another kindergarten class, but everyone else has been there since 1st grade. And they're familiar with the kids within their own school, whether they hang out with them daily or not. And so that's just going to progress now up into 8th grade, to where a kid can maintain that small community and go through those very sensitive development years, and you know, then progress onto high school.
I agree with it, because I went through it with my son. You know, he went from Citrus to Oslo, and so that first year was not good. It was, that transition was not good, and I just did the same thing with Thomas. I went K through 8 in my school up north, so it makes total sense, and it actually should have been like that before, because I never understood the whole flick thing, and then the K through 6 and or 5 and then going into 6, and I never understood that even when I first moved here back in 1986. So this is an innovation, like they want to talk about. This K through 8 is how we innovate. That ain't flying to me as far as I'm concerned. I think like Thomas says, it's a desperation point now. That was like, oh, well, maybe we'll do this now. It'll make it better for the kids in the transition, but it also helps them to get everybody into one little pod.
Well,
and
look who's doing it and having great success.
Yeah.
Traditional schools who've always done it.
Exactly.
And charters.
Yep, I agree. Yeah.
And ultimately, if this school system is going to compete, it's got to measure up to where people are going.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, my experience was totally different. We had K through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. That's
So
how I grew up. K through 5, 6 through 8, 6 through 8, 9 through 12.
Okay.
And
Yeah, there's
it was
plenty of ways to
totally
do
different.
Yeah.
I had K through 6, and then I went into a school that was K for middle school, but it was
one
private.
other thing
So I
I
got
wanted
pulled
to bring
already.
up when it comes to that K through 8 in our school choice system. I do think it's unfortunate only Fellsmere offers the dual language program, and even considering charter schools and the opportunity, they'll bus you to the other school for sports and stuff like that. Which is great. IRSA is trying to do something with Fellsmere where they'll bus the kids from the school to the sports complex. I'm not sure where.
Over on 81st, yeah.
I believe so, yeah. So looks like
Fairgrounds.
they're trying to do some accommodations, you know, but like you brought up, like band and stuff like that, you know, these schools are going to need an investment in those programs that are in every school. You know, Miss Courtney at Fellsmere, she's great, but she's not a miracle worker. You know, I know all these schools, the 4 that are going to be doing it, can probably use a substantial investment just in those types of programs that get those kids ready for high school, and you know, whether it's
and beyond. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, because when my daughter was taking band, actually, her band teacher was doing part-time at the middle school and then part-time at the high school.
Oh, wow.
Actually, that was orchestra. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. That was orchestra. They had a separate band teacher at the middle school, and then they had Salmons at the high school. But the orchestra, they shared schools. And even when I worked at Oslo, the Oslo teacher worked at Oslo, but he also went to Gifford.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to give a shout out to the resource officer out here in Fellsmere, Deputy Ian McKay. I think he played a substantial role in getting IRSA in the program going, because they do this pro camp to help the kids bring up their grades. They can work with Coach Javi after school, and it's pretty cool what they're trying to do for these kids. Comparing our great grades for our district, did you guys see that national report card that the press secretary had brought out this morning? I believe it was this morning.
I saw one a day or two ago. I think, Jennifer, you sent that out?
Yeah, I put it. It's on our Moms for Liberty public page and private page. Yeah, the NAEP results.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not looking very good.
And this is what your superintendent is up against on a marketing level.
Well, as
Like, you're the best of average.
As I said to Thomas, we're the best house on a bad block in a really bad neighborhood.
Yes,
no doubt about that.
Yeah,
We have so much we have to improve on. I mean, we're doing this K-8 and all of these things, but we have to improve the fundamentals. Your reading, your writing, your true history. We really have to, I mean, focus on that and get our kids' scores up on every level from K through, when they stop testing, with the NAEP at 10th grade. So it's like, maybe we need to increase this to 11th and 12th grade, so we're not having a 96 or whatever it is percentage graduation rate, but these kids are not doing math and reading on level and having to go, when they do go into college, doing the remedial courses. I mean, that's something that nobody wants to talk about, and wants to talk about the rainbows and the butterflies of the district. But when you really look at the grades, they need to be improved so much at a county level, state level, and a national level.
Really?
And I think the math assessments stop at 8th grade or 9th grade.
8th, I think.
I think it's 8th. Yeah.
And
You're like, okay.
but the thing to remember that is that you don't have you don't really have a good measure if you're just saying we got this number of kids out of school. I mean, you get kids out of school at 3:30, just ring a bell. That's not an accomplishment. An accomplishment is to have educated kids leave the school, and measuring graduation rates is probably the weakest measure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and measuring state rankings is the other one, because back in the day when the big thing was the ELA scores jumped from 24th to 7th in the state at 17 state rankings. I ran an assessment on it in the Sunshine Journal and found that our grades for the last 5 years were 60, 60, 58, 60. Meanwhile, the state plummeted.
Right.
So our grades never moved for 5 years. The state plummets overall average. We go up 17 spaces. So we had, and then it was like, well, we maintained during a pandemic. Well, no, you didn't. You showed no improvement.
That's where it all started.
And to me, that's government grading on a curve, and everybody knows it. And this is, once again, this is what the superintendent of the year is up against.
I want to get
he's up against. That's what he's superintendent of the year over this.
It's got to be a tough job, and I want to get your opinion on another hot topic, not for our school district, but one very close to us. If you've been paying attention to the news, you saw that principal of, I think, Roosevelt Middle School, was it, in Brevard County?
Elementary.
Was arrested for throwing a house party with over 100 kids in attendance, and they got their attention because there was one with alcohol poisoning in the front of the yard. What do you think is going through? Like, I'm not very familiar with Brevard County school system.
That just blows my mind.
You don't want to be critical of our educators.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. But, take it easy on her. Don't be too harsh. But
She is
her
a
and another,
critical
She's locked up.
educator.
What do you mean? Don't be too harsh.
but I mean, what is your opinion on this whole deal, and what do you think that superintendent was going through the other day?
Mr. Rendell, who used to be our superintendent, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder what he's thinking.
Right.
She's been suspended without pay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I don't know.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
But what I can tell you is something similar happened here last year. You never saw it in the news, but it was a district staff
Scuttlebutt.
that had a house party for prom, and a bunch of law enforcement showed up, and it was all high school students. She got terminated. Again, you don't see that in the news, but I am shocked and surprised about an elementary school principal.
How come McNulty didn't report on that? That doesn't make sense.
Well, because it wasn't making fun of conservative, common sense folk.
Wow.
He's still working on the article.
Yeah, right.
He's going to be out soon.
Well, I always get
Kevin.
reminded I'm living in a small town when secrets are kept.
Yeah.
Well, remember, we got the K through 8. It's time to innovate. Right on the front, the first paragraph, you had to innovate.
Yeah. Hey,
So-
Kevin, while serving on
easy
the
to read.
board in New York, did you ever have to deal with something like that?
Well, fortunately not. Being a small school and a private school and a Christian school. In fact, we had a requirement that one of the parents had to sign an oath of faith, and so we had pretty good quality of people, and it was a smaller school. But you always run the risk. You run the risk. Although you got to wonder if 100 kids are going to a party, how do people not know about it?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a secret, and it's just it's sort of part of the world we're in, and we have to be. You can't take for granted the individual people, even though as a whole we got a lot of good teachers doing a lot of good work, but each one's individual human beings, and we got to be careful with that.
My question is, she was an elementary principal, and I'm like, who's showing up and getting drunk that are the kids? Is it her kids in her school? Is it other kids? Is it
Could be
just
all kinds of other kids?
could be her kid was in high school and
But before I forget,
I had all their friends over.
I went to school in Brevard County. It's pretty lit. I'll tell you that.
Apparently so. It's on the lawn.
Party town? Is Brevard a party town?
Brevard's
I
a
don't
party
know, but-
county.
I've got another.
That's for another show, right, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah.
My wife reminded me one
different show on a
example.
different
One of the ways we avoided this problem is we had an extremely well-known international performer, female performer, you might say, wanted to put 2 of her adopted kids into our school.
Oh, geez.
And so we had a special meeting on that, and the superintendent our head of school wanted to accept that because she could see probably multiple $1 million of donations from that person. But we had to put our foot down and said, that's not what the school's for.
I bet you that was the devil's money.
100%.
It was the devil's
I can
girlfriend.
guess who it was.
It was the devil's girlfriend.
Yeah. No innovation there, right? Right, John?
Another hot topic. We can probably just go around real quick. I don't want to keep you guys all night, but it's a very sensitive topic right now with President Trump's executive orders. We see fake news all over social media, and there's only so much you can do. What is your take on these rumors of immigration and the sheriff? Well, we know the sheriff's department and immigration did some raids yesterday. I think they arrested 8 criminal illegals with bad backgrounds. These weren't nuns and priests or nothing like that. But besides that, all the fake news out there, when it involves schools, when it involves the children, when they're fear mongering on social media that ICE and Fellsmere Police Department are going to access the elementary school, which they already have access to. But besides that, they're throwing other schools out there. And what
Liberals in Vero are doing this, by the way. I just saw that. They're doing exactly what you're talking about, Mike.
The Facebook group,
Yeah, the Facebook group Liberals in Vero. They're all over it.
I mean, this is the epitome of fake news. And I've seen people that I know, other parents in our community, because I live out here in Fellsmere, what you said, it was 88% Hispanic.
81%.
81% Hispanic. It's still quite a bit. But so I see some of these parents posting this stuff that's fake news, and I at first I get angry with them, but then I realize that these are people are just ignorant, and they're regurgitating something they're seeing somewhere else. That's what I want to know. I want to know where they're seeing it, who is putting it in front of them and putting this out there. And some of these pages, they don't care, which, I mean, great for free speech, but this is literally the epitome of fake news. What is your take on that? I mean, we can start with Kevin and go across the bottom if you guys want to take a turn.
Well, it's pretty hard to deal with false information other than just to have forums like this where we can get good, honest information on different perspectives. Relative to the whole immigrant thing, I've been watching the fiasco up in Tallahassee, and there's a battle as to how to deal with this. I know we have a lot of undocumented immigrants who are working on farms and ranches and things, and that those people are useful and important in our economy. But I don't expect that there's going to be a whole lot of effort put into raiding a farm unless that farm's got some heavy criminals on it. And if you've got people that are by and large not causing problems, we don't have enough room to round everybody up. We just have enough room to round some of the bad people up. So you got to be smart and not be, if you're here illegally, don't hang around with somebody who's got multiple felony arrests. Because
don't get caught up in it. Yeah,
they're going to come after them, and if you're there, they should be taking you, but they don't want to take you. They don't want to take you off the farm.
Yeah.
They
Not having a driver's license could get you in a lot of trouble if you're hanging out with a bad guy.
Exactly.
And the other thing I'll say to that is in the agricultural world, most of that's guest worker program, which the Trump administration supports. So a lot of this stuff about agriculture, I like what Vance says, and some of these guys, they're like, so you support indentured servitude so you can have your blueberries. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, really? This is how you're going to play it? And that to me it makes perfect sense. The bottom line is people came across the border illegally. They broke the law, and the law has to be adhered to. It's criminal activity. And to say, in spite of, for whatever reason you came, apparently a lot of this these days is not for altruistic reasons or refugees from war-torn countries. It's paid migration.
Yep.
Meaning these people are being paid to be trafficked here. A lot of it is. You can't have these caravans and tell me it's not.
Jen, would Moms for
NGOs are
Liberty,
making a lot of money.
For Jen, if you were to advise a sheriff or an ICE department, would you obviously advise them to stay out of the schools? Like maybe not, or I mean, obviously it's fake news, but we know through executive order it was removed from one of the safe space places. I don't think we'll see that here. I mean, I don't think any of our schools are harboring any illegal aliens. I mean, you never know about some of these crazy churches, but Moms for Liberty, what's your take on that? And mainly the threat, the fake news when it regards the kids in the school.
Right. So we've done, great question, Mike. So we've done many public records requests over the past couple of years under the Biden administration, asking, are there illegal immigrants in our schools? Are there any undocumented children in our schools? Is there any undocumented help in the schools? I mean, it could even run into bus drivers, cafeteria workers, teachers, things like that, right? So we've done public records requests, like I said, the past couple of years, and it always comes back, no documents found, which means that they have no undocumented workers or children. So to say it here in Indian River County that if they're worried about going to the schools, they're not going to find anything because doing it again through a public records request, anybody can do that. We've done it, that there is no undocumented people, and people need to come here legally. I mean, that's a personal thing of mine. Like if you do this in another country, if us six were to go into another country illegally, bad things would happen if we even made it over the border. So, being the best country in the world, being the strongest country in the world and getting back to that, people need to come here legally And even legal immigrants are not happy with what's going on because they had to come here legally.
It's
They
not
had to
fair
go
for
through
them.
the system and everything. So it's not just people that were born here legally, and it's the people that came here as immigrants and had to go through the channels and pay lots and lots of money and do lots and lots of time and have a job here and have all of these things that they're not happy with this as well.
Well, all the things you
I would
see.
like to talk to that for a second, because when I worked at the high school, I used to work at the Flick. We had an undocumented kid that came through, and he was staying at the Hibiscus because you can't turn away children. And he was totally Spanish, no English, told me in Spanish how he got here. He was like 14 years old, or he said he was. I couldn't tell if he really was 14, but he told me that he crossed the border. I said, "How did you get here?" He said he stayed with families. He was not a documented child, and I was I was told that you cannot turn away kids. They go to the Hibiscus. Hibiscus takes them in. However, they fill the paper out with them, I don't know. But this kid, I would have to translate with him, because I worked in discipline, and he ended up in discipline because he was threatening teachers. And he was telling me this story, so I was like, I don't know. And when I worked at the front desk, there were people that came over that had Colombia. They used their visas to show me. They didn't have like a, an American ID. They would drop their kids off, and their visas, when I asked them for ID, you had to put in the Raptor. You had to go into Raptor, and I go, I need to see your ID. And they give you a visa from like Colombia or Cuba or Argentina, and it's not even an American visa, So I don't know. I just have to wonder about that public records request and how they're putting the kids in the system, because obviously these people that were picking up the kids that were saying they were their parents were not American, and they didn't have an American visa, and they didn't have a green card. They just showed me their passport.
Well,
So
and that's
wonder.
one of the big issues of, you get a kid who comes through an NGO, and he tells you how he gets across the border, but the NGO has already created the paperwork that he's sponsored or whatever, and the meaning of law gets just broken down in so many ways that what is legal anymore, what is undocumented, what is all of these things that have definition. They don't have them anymore, and that's what's happened with our immigration system. And Trump's trying to bring definition back to the rules and how they're applied and supposed to be applied.
Mm-hmm.
John, what you got?
Well, she said that she gave you the answer. The kid was in Hibiscus Children's Center. Well, Hibiscus Children's Center is not meant for an undocumented minor to go stay at. Number one, that place is a nonprofit organization. It's supposed to be housing abused and neglected children that have been removed from their homes due to abuse or neglect. So that's number one right there. That's where your red flag is. That kids shouldn't be there. Kids should be somewhere else with a parent. Unless the kid was removed by the authorities. So that's a problem right there. And the other answer is that this has been going on this whole time for our whole entire lives. The border's been wide open since Obama and Bush and Clinton and all the way back to whenever. So this is being exposed to show you this has been going on all this time. And they're not in these schools and taking these kids, and they're not doing all those things. It's all a crock of crap, and that's what people have to realize.
And to that point, the whole issue of the social media and liberals' outrage, it's because they don't want the law to be enforced. They have never believed in the law.
Exactly.
Now that it's being enforced, they're screaming because they don't want the law to. They want to pick which laws get enforced.
Exactly. And I call that selective outrage. And we see it at the board meetings all the time.
No, it's called democracy.
Yeah. And what's going to happen is if it does happen and some kid does something, get picked up around here, it might not be at school, but he might end up going and getting deported back. You're going to hear about it, and they're going to come to the school board meeting and say, how did this kid get deported? Oh my God. And you'll have the whole room full of all these people that'll have selective outrage. And you'll see it all come out of the woodwork. And he's exactly right.
Right.
All right, guys, I want to let Kevin, Jen, and Thomas go, and we'll wrap up the show just after them, I want to talk about the Warrior Shield Foundation real quick and pay some homage to them. Thomas, Jen,
Nice,
Kevin,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
We'll look
Thank
at the schedule and see when we're going to be back and see what else exciting.
You got a visitor.
Got a visitor. Hi.
Bye.
Say hi. This is
We want to
Riley.
talk to her.
Yeah.
She'll talk.
All right. Have a great night, guys. Thank you.
Right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good
Bye,
evening.
guys. Bye, A team.
All right. Once again, thank you to all. Thank you to all the contributors, because we couldn't do this. Like I explained this to someone today that was kind of worried about maybe the image that might be put out of whether we're friendly towards some city councils or boards, and it's imperative that they know we are. I'm not looking to make enemies. Everybody's frozen. Maybe it's just me. But I extended the invite last time we had Jed Arnez on. Somebody had asked about city managers or city councilmen. I don't know how an elected official could get around some legalities without a headache, but any city manager or planner, if you want to correct the record or go on the record or come on the board report, we extend that invite to them. We appreciate them. And whether I like them or not, it takes a lot to step into public service, not just the elected positions, but working for these city councils can't be very easy in itself, especially if you're not a self-serving person. But besides that, we started running an ad called from the Warrior Shield Foundation that a friend of ours, Dale, from Two Guys One Coop, had made. It's an event they're promoting called Warrior Weekend, which happens in Orlando. It's September 5th, 6th, and 7th. It's a benefit that raises money, and every year they pick one charity to put all their force behind, and it's all veteran and first responder related. So every charity they help, it's got something to do with helping somebody who's put service into our country. I saw a wonderful interview the other day with wheelchairs for warriors, and just there's other charities. There's so many of them, and they're tear jerkers, but we're happy to support them. We might stream from there. I don't know if we can wing it or not, but we'll see when we find out the details. But definitely we want to support them. So check out their website. I think it's in the commercial. I already posted it on our social media too. So
September 5th through the 7th, right?
yes. And every day I think there's something different. I think the 5th, there's the Hero Fest concert with Bo Bice, who was runner-up to Carrie Underwood from American Idol.
Yeah.
There's another Patriot performer, former veteran, who was performing that night also. Then I think Saturday night, there's a gala and a silent auction and a public auction, whatever. And then Sunday, maybe Saturday, there's a ride too. For if you ride a motorcycle, there's like a memorial ride. And then
I was thinking of bringing my motorcycle if we went.
Yeah, and then Sunday there is a gator hunt. I think it's by lottery, where they take like a veteran or a first responder out, and I think you can pay to go along also. So it's pretty interesting. I paid attention to the guys last year when they were streaming from there, and I got to know Rich from Grit Gear, who's the treasurer for Warrior Shield Foundation, just from the screen. I don't know him personally, but I started talking to him, and I asked him if we can help plug it because of with our plans to be there. So I wanted to throw that out there, and it's something positive among all that negative we're seeing on social media right now. But and then thanks to you guys for bringing us another board report.
Yep, it's good.
Yeah,
very good.
Next week I think we're working on George Collin. How do you say his last name?
Cologne.
And possibly Sheila. Have we reached out to Sheila?
Gala. Well, did you reach out to her, or
not yet,
should I just call her?
I got George, so yeah, I got George.
Yeah, because I think they both bring a lot to the table when it comes to getting down to the pharmaceuticals and
the schools, all the mental health and all that. Yeah, so it'll be good, and we can follow up on her event she's having too.
And of course, CJ, if you're watching, I know you like to watch. you're invited to join us again next week to give us a little tidbits of what you're working on again. So that's all I got. You guys got anything else?
I'll shoot him a text.
That's it. Just if you get a chance, check out the TGI Now podcast. We had Robert Morris, the J6er. We got a really good response on that. So check that out. And then Joanne, you had your last interview.
Very excellent interview. Yeah.
Kelly Meggs and Connie Meggs, they were a couple that went to the rally. They also were security for Trump's rally at the podium where he was at, and then they walked down to the Capitol. So they're part of the Oath Keepers, but the Oath Keepers, I want people to understand, they're not like militia like everybody wants them to be. They're former police officers. Like if you've ever seen the motorcycles riding and bikers in blue, or you see them, they get together and they do fundraisers and they help people out. And that's what they do. And they've actually done security for like Roger Stone and people like that.
All right.
So they're good people. So it was really good.
It was a great interview.
Yeah, and while we were doing the show, I just got texted by another J6er that was reaching out to me. So I'll be reaching out to him and see if I'll have another interview, because I want to tell their stories, because people just look at them like they're terrorists and insurrectionists because the left media just wants to vilify them. And it's like, it's really not that. We need to hear their story and see who they are. And so far, everybody that I've met has just touched my heart, and they're people just like you and me.
Just let them speak their truth. That's it. They just tell their story. That's all it is.
We look forward to the next one. John, TGI Now on Tuesdays at 8.
Yep.
Mike, To The Point Podcast, Tuesday nights at 8.
Bedford Chronicles, whenever I get an interview, I'm up and running. So it might be 2 a week.
I'm hoping to get you some of those interviews of those the women involved around the charities with Warrior Shield.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Some amazing people, you know.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Thanks for watching at home. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and share with your friends.
Hola, señorita. Hola, señorita. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Oh, hold on.